I think previously I wouldn't have said, look, oh, I'm a creative or I'm an artist because of this like thinking that comes or this conditioning also that comes with like, oh, to be able to call yourself that, you need to have X, Y, or Z certification or certain level of experience. Like all these things that society tells us that we need to do or, like get the
Mm-hmm.
degree, hacer esto,
Mm-hmm.
lo otro, to be able to be worthy of like
The
that
title.
title, right? And
Yeah.
then it's also very much tied to productivity because of capitalism and how much can you produce and then how much are you worth? Since I've been still unlearning that, right? Because it's very like deeply
Mm-hmm.
ingrained. So it comes out still in different ways. And I think it's
Yeah.
going to be a lifelong practice of unlearning that. Um, now I'm like, yeah, I am a creative person because previously also I would be like, oh, it's because I don't know how to draw. Like if there's
Yes.
if there's like a specific way you need to know how to draw, you know. But that was my thought, like, oh no, I can only do stick figures. Like I don't know how to draw. And then I would get into the overthinking because I am an overthinker.
Thank All
I
right,
I
Joanna. I'm so excited to have you here. Let's get this episode started. And I just want to start off by saying welcome. Welcome to you. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. And I just want to say thank you.
likewise, gracias a ti. I'm happy to be here and I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
I think before we go anywhere, I would love for you to introduce yourself and let folks know who you are.
Yes, of course. My name is Joanna Oyarzabal Méndez. My pronouns are she and ella. I love the ocean. I'm a proud Sagittarius. Fire is my element. Um, I love plantitas. I love cooking. I love going on walks. I've been on this journey of learning how to rest and unlearning all this capitalist conditioning these past 2 years since I left my former job. And so that's been a very transformative journey. And I like to start off with what I like to do because I've been unlearning like a letting go of certain identities that
Mm-hmm.
previously were attached to my worth. So that's why I wanted to start off just sharing some of the things that I love to do. I love music, I love dancing as well. And then later I can share about the work that I do supporting folks.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And that's exactly why I wanted to start off with your introduction because that's something I want to get into. Just the way that you live your life is so inspiring to me. And that's honestly the reason why I invited you to the show, because I think that the way you're living
Mm.
is very admirable. And it's something that I think a lot of us want to be able to do at some point and without even realizing that. I know that that was the case for me. I didn't even know that I was living a certain way and that things could be different. I'm sure we're going to get into all of that. But yeah, I really admired your journey and just to share with folks a little bit about your background as well. With you just left your 9 to 5. Well, not just, but it's, I think it's been like 2 years,
It's
nine
going to
to
be two
five.
years.
Mm-hmm. And you moved from the US to Oaxaca. So that's crazy because like it's a huge move. And then I made some notes.
Yes.
So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. And then you started this new life that feels a bit unconventional. So that's really interesting. I want to dive into all of those things. And then the other thing that's really interesting to me is how you have embraced creativity in your daily life. And you're doing really interesting stuff, both with cooking and through your business. So yeah, I would love to hear how all that came about. So I think the first thing that I wanted to start off with was what prompted you to move?
Great question. It was a lot of different things. When I started graduate school in 2021, and I bring this up because when I started the program, like I think it was 2 weeks in, I just had this feeling, and I remember verbalizing it to some friends. I was like, once I finish graduate school, I'm going to move to Mexico. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how it's going to look like, but
Mhm.
I just have this longing to go to my motherland and experience life there. My mom is from Jalisco. My dad is from Zacatecas. I had been going to Mexico a few times previous to that and just mostly to Jalisco and like connecting with family members that, have stayed there and just connecting more to my mom's side of the family, my mom's side of the culture, like her pueblo.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that contributed to me having that reconnecting, I think, to that longing of just wanting to be somewhere in La Tierra where my ancestors are from. So when I started grad school, I started the program thinking I wanted to be a bilingual therapist. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And once I started the program, like 2 weeks in or something, I don't even remember. I was like, I don't think I want this anymore. And then I was questioning myself of like, then why am I going to stay in the program? If so, what for? Like it's an investment on so many levels, emotionally, financially. I didn't know. I didn't have the answers at that moment. I think the journey in itself was part of figuring it out as I went. But I did have that goal and like just longing of once I finish this program, I want to move and then just live life over there and figure it out as I go.
Amazing. And I'm wondering, were there any specific body signals or signs that you noticed that were kind of guiding you towards making that decision?
Yeah. So in the summer of 2022, I studied abroad in Oaxaca. That was my first time being in Oaxaca. And the reason why I did my master's in social welfare program at UC Berkeley was specifically because they had a study abroad program in Oaxaca, like a summer abroad. And it was very much focused on ancestral methods of healing. I felt just like I wanted to learn and connect more to those ancestral ways of healing. My great grandmother, Juana, which I'm named after, era la partera del rancho de mi papá en Zacatecas. And so even though I didn't know her, because I never met her, I began to feel more of her energy prior to going to Oaxaca that summer. And when I was in Oaxaca, and I feel it right now in my body, it's like I just feel that warmth, which I think is her, in my chest. Like it's hard to explain it, but I feel like just that sensation and that her energetically. So yeah, when I went to Oaxaca that summer, I connected more to her specifically, and also my maternal grandmother and my maternal grandfather, who have all passed already, as well as my paternal grandmother. So that trip was very just transformative. There was a lot of healing that happened on many levels, like intergenerational healing, just being able to connect to my ancestors in a more profound way through the woman that I had the privilege of learning from here, who, and I say here because I'm currently in Oaxaca still. So a psychologist, a sociologist, la curandera, all that learning and just wisdom and just being able to connect to the people in my lineage. Me quedé así because I was like, I shared a lot. I'm not sure if I answered the question, but it's okay. We're not here to answer questions specifically. It's a conversation.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I love it.
No, I love how everything is flowing, and I'm just sitting with your experience because it's so profound. When you were talking about you're in school, you're doing all this work, and then you have this opportunity to go back to Mexico and spend time there, and that feeling that you're starting to get that connection to your lineage is so powerful. And I'm just thinking how you have to be in tune, right? Like you have to be listening to be able to notice that. And I'm just wondering, were you already kind of expecting that something was gonna come up for you, or because I'm just thinking a lot of us, we're just going through our life and we don't really notice those signals a lot of the time that we might be getting, but you were, and I'm wondering like what helped you to be in tune, I guess.
I think, for example, being connected to my great grandmother, Juana, being able to talk to my dad about it, which it was his grandmother, and she had gifts in terms of being able to support other people on their healing journeys, some of which my dad also inherited. And he's talked to me about me also inheriting some of those gifts, right? Being able to talk to him and hear about her experiences, his experiences, how they have supported other people on their healing journeys. I think that just direct line with my dad supported me in being in tune with my great grandmother, even though I physically never met her. During that time before I think I came to Oaxaca, I dreamed about her. And once in Oaxaca, I also dreamed about her. So through my dreams, and it's hard, usually I don't remember my dreams. So when I do remember them, I'm like, oh, wow, like okay. I also take it as a signal. I remember I dreamt about her. And then with my other grandparents too, I just felt when we were, for example, we did workshops around intergenerational healing with a psychologist based in Oaxaca, who's from Oaxaca and who's been my psychologist for a few years now. So even in those sessions, just energetically, I felt like my grandparents' energy, and I don't know how to explain it como en palabras, but in like body sensations, I felt them. I would then journal also, and that helped me understand what I was feeling and what was happening. Writing has been a very powerful tool for me and a tool of creation in terms of being able to understand, feel my emotions, and for me to like reflect, to do a lot of like self-reflection.
Yeah, writing and being able to know what you're even thinking and feeling. Something I find really interesting as you're sharing is that connection that you have with your dad and how he helped you to see your own gifts. And I'm wondering, what were some of those gifts you started to notice that you had?
I remember when my dad first was like planting the seed years ago, I would be like, I don't know if that's accurate. Like I would think to myself, like, I don't even know what that means. And I still am trying to understand what it means. Um, but he told me, he's like, tienes un don en tus manos, son mis manos. Which at first I was like, does that mean like don in terms of like touching or like,
Right.
doing body work? Like that's where my mind went to initially. And he hasn't gone deep into explaining what that means because I think that's also part of the process of me discovering it as I go, right? As I reflected on it too, I'm like, creo que el don en mis manos or the gift in my hands. For example, one way that it shows up is through my cooking, right? Through the handling of food, through creating food, through transmitting love and care through food. Another way is through writing. I write with my hands. I prefer to write like on a pen and paper instead of on the computer. I'll do it on the computer too, but I just feel like it's more profound for me when I write on paper and like see my handwriting. And just creation in other forms, like creating art, however that looks like, whether it's collages, whether it's me trying to paint or draw, all of that stems from like my hands. Those are the ways that I've kind of seen it develop or use. And I'm curious just to continue connecting to like, what does that mean? Like, what is my ancestral gift and calling in this lifetime, which I'm still trying to understand and listen to those signals from my ancestors.
Thank you for sharing that. There's so much to talk about, and I'm thinking about food first of all. And that's something that I'm really inspired by when I see the way that you interact with food, what it means to you. And you're right. Being able to touch things, make things with our hands is so powerful. That hand to body connection, or I should say hand to like mind connection. There is power when we're touching things and when we're understanding the world through our body. You're modeling what that looks like for all of us, because I think so many of us are stuck in our heads and we want to analyze everything, and we forget that we have this body, right? That we can experience the world through our hands, our eyes, our ears. That we're not just brains walking and over analyzing everything. With the food, how did you start playing with that? Did you grow up cooking? Were you shown, or did you have to kind of go off on your own and learn?
No, I grew up cooking and helping in the kitchen with my paternal grandmother, mi abuelita Fide, que en paz descanse, my tías on my dad's side of the family, because I grew up with all of them. It was like a big house of 20 plus people. For my mom as well, who passed down the recipes from her mom, mi abuelita Lupe. Entonces, mis mujeres are the ones who taught me how to cook. And I have very beautiful memories. Although also me acuerdo when they would wake me up hella early. Like on the weekends, and then mi abuelita le decía a mi mamá, because it was like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. We were still sleeping, me and my cousins, and she'd be like, Licha, ¿usted cree que todavía van a estar dormidas? Ya se les pegaron las sábanas. And they would try to wake us up to like help with the chores and cooking in the kitchen. Yeah, see? So that I didn't like, but I have very beautiful memories of us just being in the kitchen, haciendo gorditas, o que haciendo el desayuno, que preparando para la birria, para los tamales. And we would make tamales. It was also like my grandma, my tia, as my mom would show us, like me and my cousins younger, of like, it was like delegating the tasks, right? Like, estas personas van a amasar la masa. Nos enseñaban cómo hacer la masa. Estas personas van a ayudar con los rellenos, estas personas van a embarrar y ahora vamos like assemble and cook and then a alguien le tocaba bailar, bueno, bailar también, los trastes iba a decir, entonces nos dividíamos like the tasks and we would like it would share stories. Like my grandma was like a phenomenal storyteller. She would always tell you her stories about life in el rancho, all the hard things, all the cool things, the
All
things
the
that she
chisme.
missed, all the chisme, yeah, que fulanito hacía esto, fulanito hacía lo otro. So yeah, when we were cooking, it was like a time to story tell and like laugh. Y luego también a veces había peleas, you know? But like dance, había un poquito de todo, pero sí era como an experience. And now that I no longer have that in that way because she's passed, I look back, I'm very grateful to have been able to experience that and to learn from her how to make chilaquiles, like how to make different foods that are very much a part of our culture. And to be able to continue practicing that, and also experimenting with recipes and trying different things, respecting the traditional ones, but then also leaving room for creativity. If there's certain ingredients that are in season, using those. Si hay algo que no encuentras, pues cómo puedes hacerlo de otra manera.
Claro. Y suena como que ella tuvo mucha influencia en cómo eres y cómo todavía te gusta cocinar y mantienes esa tradición, ¿no? Como
Sí,
para la siguiente generación.
sí. Y mi mami también es una gran cocinera, and she shows her love and care through cooking for you, and so
Love
amazing.
language.
Yes, it's definitely her love language. It was also, I think, my grandmother's love language, and I've inherited that from them. It's also one of my love languages.
By the way, was this happening in Mexico or was this happening in the US?
No, this was happening in California. Yeah.
So your grandma came to California?
Yeah, she came to California. I don't remember when, but yeah, I grew up with her. So she left the ranchito, and also my grandfather, su pareja, they both like came to California, I think when I was like 1 year old or 2 year old. So I grew up with them until I left the home in Southern California and moved up to the Bay Area for school.
Wow.
Sí.
That is such a nice way to grow up, to have your grandparents, to have those traditions so
Sí.
strongly with you. Because I think a lot of people, once they migrate, and I can speak for myself, I feel like once I migrated to the US, I lost some of the things that we would do. For example, I didn't celebrate Dia de los Muertos for the longest because I was like, oh no, like I'm supposed to assimilate and I want to do what we do here and like embrace the traditions here. And I noticed there's people like you, people who I've come to meet who have never really thought about it that way. Like they embrace their roots and they hold on to who they are, even if they're in the US. And I always question that about my own experience of like, why did I feel such pressure to give up my culture? And I do think that has to do with our families and like the way that our parents and the people around us make us feel, or the way they remind us to either stick to our traditions or not stick to our traditions. And I don't know about your family. Would you say are they traditional, or would you say they're more forward thinking and they're kind of embracing new things?
Como en todas las familias, it depends on the family member. There's a little bit of everything. But yeah, there's definitely traditional thinking in some aspects. And then there's certain family members who are more open-minded and forward-thinking, and they also shaped and influenced part of who I I am. And I think the younger generations now, like mis primos, the 20-year-old, they're much more open-minded and conscious little human beings who are aware of all the injustices going on in the world.
You were talking about writing and art, and that is really interesting to me too, because you, I think, represent a lot of the women that I talk to who don't necessarily label themselves creative or artists, but do practice creativity in many ways. So I'm wondering, where do you stand when it comes to this label of artist or creative?
So I think previously I wouldn't have said, look, oh, I'm a creative or I'm an artist, because of this like thinking that comes, or this conditioning also that comes with like, oh, to be able to call yourself that, you need to have X, Y, or Z certification or certain level of experience, like all these things that society tells us that we need to do, or, you know, like get the degree, hacer esto, lo otro, to be able to be worthy of like
The title.
that title, right?
Yeah.
And then it's also very much tied to productivity because of capitalism and how much can you produce, and then how much are you worth? since I've been still unlearning that, right? Because it's very like deeply ingrained.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes out still in different ways. And I think
Yeah.
it's going to be a lifelong practice of unlearning that. Um, Now I'm like, yeah, I am a creative person because previously also I would be like, oh, it's because I don't know how to draw. Like if there's
Yes.
if there's like a specific way you need to know how to draw, you know. But that was my thought, like, oh no, I can only do stick figures. Like I don't know how to draw. And then I would get into the overthinking because I am an overthinker.
Same.
Yeah, even though I try and I've learned to just accept that that's a part of me and trying to just embrace it and learn what patterns I have, like kind of like learn how to identify before I spiral, like what's happening when I
Mm-hmm.
spiral, after I spiral. But where was I going with this? Yeah, that I thought I didn't know how to draw, and then
Mm-hmm.
a veces decía eso, like, no, es que yo no sé dibujar. Pero it's a practice. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It's just like not focusing on just like doing it without like thinking about it. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
gonna draw whatever. For me, what works is like whatever comes to me in the moment. That's how
Mm-hmm.
I create like art. It doesn't work for me to think about what I want to create or have an idea in my head, like, oh, I want to do flowers or I want to draw this. Like, I just kind of go with my emotions in the moment. And like,
Mm-hmm.
abro mi notebook y ya empiezo yo como a dibujar. Like, I'll just start
Sí.
drawing or like collaging. And then that's my creative process. Like, I can't think about what I want to do before or look at like an image to inspire me like that. It just doesn't work for
That's
me.
such a good point. For example, with me, because I went to school and
Mhm.
school usually starts with your head, right? Like they're always
Mm-hmm.
making you think. I got really used to thinking about what do I want to do before I sit down to do it. Because then you
Mm-hmm.
have to like plan it out and then you execute it. And so it's a very step-by-step linear
Mm-hmm.
process. And that's one way to do it. And I think that's valid. There's, I think, places and times where that really works.
Sí.
But when it comes to this connection to ourselves, or when we want to use it more as a therapeutic tool, a tool
Mm-hmm.
for our own growth, that can kind of get in the way, you know. And that for me, it's taken a while to let that go. So hearing your process of like, I respond to how I'm feeling through these tools sounds so soothing and so much more relaxing and low pressure.
Mm-hmm. See, definitely. Just like more low pressure and taking expectations out of it. And to your point, yeah, I think there's different ways of doing it, right? Like no es como que one is right or wrong. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of figuring out, feeling, being in tune with your energy and where you're at, because maybe right now this works for me. Maybe for another project, it'll help me to like think about it and plan it
Mm-hmm.
out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just being in tune with your energy and where you're at and going with that instead of following a specific process or somebody else's process.
Right. And so when it comes to either writing or art, do you feel, are you inclined to want to take classes, or do you like just going with the flow and you figuring out whatever you want to do?
I like both. I've done like groups where we like collage and create together, and I really like that. So I'm gonna shout out my manita, Doctora Dulce Lopez, Doctora Corazon, because that's how I actually started with like creating in a journal. She shares her love journal with the world, and it's a beautiful gift. It's been very transformative for me. So like it's like my love journal. I started with this like 3 years ago. And she holds groups sometimes. So that's how I met her, and where it was like, it was a group and she introduced the love journal, like, you know, what the intention is. And then we created together. So se nos daba un theme. And I've gone to a few of her gatherings, which are virtual, and she does them seasonally sometimes. And so, you know, fall, winter, spring. And so it's very beautiful space, like a community space to like reflect together and create art. So I've done some groups, and then a veces yo solita. Sometimes I'll tell my partner and both of us will create in our journals, or she'll paint and I'll write, like a combination of different things.
And talking about overthinking, you mentioned that earlier.
Mhm.
It sounds like you're also so good at helping yourself to move forward, even though you are an overthinker. And I'm wondering, are there specific things that you can think of that
Mhm.
help you to get out of those loops?
Sometimes writing down my thoughts or what I'm feeling in the moment helps me when I'm in the loop. And also creating art of some sort. So I've used my love journal even when I'm experiencing like hard emotions and just overthink, like, for example, oh my God, I just feel hopeless. And I also have so much rage at everything that's going on. And then I'm just spiraling because I'm like, how are we going to change things? There's just like one thing after another. I've done this a few times where when I'm in that loop, I'll open up my journal and I'll start creating. And expressing and feeling, like, for example, my rage, my hopelessness, my sadness. So those emotions too, I make room for myself to feel them, even though they might be uncomfortable or they're hard, sometimes they're difficult. And art has been a very powerful tool for me to be able to like feel and like sit with my rage, with my sadness, with my grief, and create something with it. And also not just be like, oh, I'm going to create something and then I'm done feeling it. No, like if I'm feeling it the rest of the day, like it's okay.
What do you think is the difference between this modality versus other things that you've tried when it comes to your healing?
Between this modality and, like, for example, talk therapy or algo así. I think creating art like this on my own or in a group setting, I think it just flows in a different way. It feels like se siente como like with menos pressure. For example, compared to like going to therapy and trying to figure out what I want to talk about and what I want to like process. And sí, como que ahí sé que hay como un kind of like a step by step, not a step by step, because you go and then you talk about what you're gonna, you know.
Pero como que hay más estructura, ¿no?
Sí,
como que tienes
como
que
que
seguir pasos.
Exactly. Like I schedule my session and then I go and then I talk about, you know, certain things for 1 hour and then I process after. Like that's the process for that. And it's helpful in different ways. And with this, I feel like it's just like I create for the amount of time that I want. It's like unstructured and I allow myself to flow in the moment.
Yeah. Talking about structure and maybe linear processes, something that I talk about is neurodivergence, and a lot of neurodivergent people are not linear thinkers. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about using art as a therapeutic tool, as a tool for self-discovery, because you don't have to be as structured and as step-by-step when you're trying to understand yourself better. And I know when I mentioned this to you, you had a very interesting answer in terms of like these labels, right? And I wanted to hear more about that because I think that you mentioned something about you don't necessarily use those labels, but maybe you resonate. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I think I'm still understanding how my brain functions and how it shows up in different areas of my life, where some people have told me that behavior is like something that a neurodivergent person kind of like does, you know, or like, como que he visto, I've seen things where it's like, oh, if you're neurodivergent, like you tend to do this or you tend to do that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I do that. But I hadn't thought about myself as like neurodivergent, I guess, growing up. I'm not like against the label. I'm just still trying to understand like what that means for me, how that shows up, and then how, because sometimes I do think in linear ways, but then sometimes I don't. So then I'm like, am I not? Like, but instead of focusing on that label per se or on other labels per se, it's kind of for me figuring out, okay, what are things that work for me? What are things that don't work for me? And allowing myself to explore along the way. And as I figure out, like, what are the things that do resonate? What are the things that don't? What are the processes that maybe do work for me? And what are the processes that don't?
It sounds like you don't necessarily need a label at this moment to continue functioning or doing your life, but it's out there. If you need it, I'm sure like you would use it.
Yeah, and it's helpful to see people share about their journeys. For me to see neurodivergent folks share about their journeys and things that they struggle with, because in some of those things I see myself and I feel seen.
I'm just sitting with that because I think it's profound. I think a lot of us are quick to, especially I think in this day and age, to hold on to labels or to be like, oh yeah, that must be me. And there's something that can be said about people maybe overly identifying with certain words or certain labels,
true.
right? But there's also the other side, has been my experience, where I feel like sometimes those labels do help you to understand yourself better, and it gives you language to know who you are. And this is my very personal opinion. I hold them loosely and I'm open to them changing and potentially there being something else that might come down in the future that might be even better, more specific. Who knows? But I do think it's a journey. And like you said, it's interesting to hear what other people are experiencing or how they're going about their own journeys, because I find that when I hear other folks talk about their experience, it helps me to kind of question myself too and wonder, oh, does that apply to me? Is that how I'm experiencing things?
Encanta. I love that you said that, of like allowing yourself to be like, right now that feels aligned and that feels like it, I identify with that, and that can change and that's okay.
Right. And talking about labels, the other thing that I love to check in with folks about is their multifaceted selves. A lot of the women that listen to this show are multi-passionate, like I am. We do a lot of different things. There's a lot of facets to who we are. And I'm wondering for you, what does that look like? Does that resonate?
I do identify as multi-passionate because there's a lot of things that que me gustan hacer, que me encanta hacer, y se me dificulta también, como por ejemplo en mi negocio, decir, oh, I only do this specific thing, like this is my niche, like I don't like that. Like there's different types of things that I like to do. There's different life experiences that I have. There's different things that I can support people with. And so that's why it's hard for me to be like, it's just this one thing and I'm going to help you with this one thing. Like, no, it's like a process, you know, and because I'm a multi-passionate person, and because I have so many different interests and so many different lived experiences, like I can't put myself just in one lane.
How have you decided what to lead with when it comes to your business versus something else, given that you, like you said, you have so many experiences, so many things that you could talk about? How are you navigating that?
Trying to navigate it and figure it out. That's the honest answer. What I do have clear is that I specifically want to support LGBTQ plus, people of color, and fat humans on their healing journeys.
Ooh, say more about that. That sounds really interesting.
You know, within that, there's just so many different things, right, that you can support people with, like learning how to establish boundaries, for example. Like there's just like so many things that you can support people with in their lived experiences and in their life in general. But yeah, the work that I have done previously and that I want to continue doing is supporting specifically these communities and shedding and unlearning all the societal conditioning, like cultural conditioning, like systems conditioning that tell you need to be a certain way. And then through this process of then self-discovery and reconnecting to you, figuring out, what do I actually want? What are my values? Are there different ways that I want to move through the world? What do I want to let go of and release? How does that feel in my body? The goal was for them to be able to live their lives more a su manera, more aligned to like what they want, need, and desire.
And is there something about, because the word fat can be triggering, right, for some people, or I think it comes with a lot of baggage, and I wanted to know more about that. Why that word?
Yeah, for sure. For people who live in fat bodies and who have lived in fat bodies, right, because there's a lot of negative connotations associated with the word fat, and it has been used in very harmful ways and continues to be used in very harmful ways. It can be very triggering for people depending on which part of their journey they're at. For me, it was a very triggering word for many years. And it no longer is. I went through a long process of learning how to love and accept and respect myself and my fat body. And for me, it's been a process also of reclaiming the word fat, of like, it has been used in a negative way to oppress and harm my body and myself and for decades, and it still is used in a negative way. But I have decided to reclaim it and give it like a beautiful meaning. Like, yes, I am a fat person and I love my fat body. I respect my fat body, and I want to be able to support other fat humans and people who have experience living in fat bodies to heal from, if they've had negative experiences around their body size, heal from those negative experiences, to learn how to respect, validate, and love the body that they inhabit, right? Because tenemos este cuerpo
Y es el
por el
único.
tiempo, por el tiempo que estemos en este mundo, for the time that we're in this world, we're going to be in this body. And Sonia Renee Taylor has been a great inspiration for me. Her book, The Body is Not an Apology, and she talks about that we were not born hating our bodies. And that's true, even if we don't remember that time in our lives. Like for those of us who have experienced hating our bodies in some capacity, right? Maybe we don't remember when we didn't hate our body, but we weren't born hating our bodies. We were taught to hate our bodies. And when you live in a fat body, there's different ways that your body's oppressed. And if you add then other intersections of your identity, whether you're a person of color, whether you have a disability, then, that oppression just increases. I think just her sharing her journey and the work that she does around body liberation, it has been and is an inspiration for me. And so Mi Granito de Arena is also supporting other folks and liberating themselves, liberating their bodies and embracing their bodies, their fat bodies.
That is such powerful work. And I love what you said about it depends where you are in your journey, whether you will see this word as triggering or maybe they will work with you and you will help them to embrace that word and make it mean something powerful and meaningful to them. Is there anything that you're currently offering, or how are you working with folks right now?
I am working with folks one-on-one, and I am also planning on offering workshops again in the future. I offered some last year and a group program in the future because I do love group work, and I think it's very powerful and transformative to be able to work through these things like in a group setting.
I love that. And I know we're coming up on time here. I do want to say we are going to share your work, of course, your links to your Instagram, to your pages so folks can connect with you. But before we wrap up, is there anything that you feel is important to share with the women that are going to be listening to this show, who might be feeling disconnected, who might be feeling overwhelmed with everything that's going on in the world? Is there anything that you would want to share with them?
Yeah, there's several things, but the ones that come to me right now are be more of you. That in itself is very powerful. Reconnecting to who you are and living your life in a way that's aligned to your values, right? And don't be afraid to move differently through the world. And that's gonna entail you grieving, letting go of past identities, maybe. And it's okay. It's a process. Allow yourself to do that, but don't be afraid to move differently through the world. And an art piece that I created actually a few weeks ago when I was feeling so much rage and helplessness of like, oh my God, there's just so much going on. There has been for decades because of colonization and all of these horrible things, is that we have people power, we have community power, and they're not going to be able to take that away from us.
Yes.
I know snaps took that all the time. And
yes.
I feel it. I feel that energy. I'm like, yes, they can't take that away from us.
That is such a powerful reminder. Yes, community and learning to develop our communities, to organize. And you're right, they can't take away our power when we're working together. You and I both have had conversations about how do we do that, right? How do we find that community? And it's okay to be in the journey. And I love what you said about living your values, aligned to what's important to you. I'm also a huge believer that when those things align, when your values and the way that you walk in the world are in integrity, that's where you find that peace and that calm that you think that you're going to find outside of yourself.
Yes. And if you know who you are and what you stand for, like nobody can
move you, can shake.
Yes, exactly. I was like, thank you. I love it. Energetically, we're there.
I see you. Ay, Joanna, well, podríamos hablar por horas de todo esto, ¿verdad? Pero muchísimas gracias por haber estado aquí, for being here, for sharing yourself. Again, I'm so inspired by the way you live your life, not just the labels, not just like your job, but who you are as a person, your soul, your energy. And I feel very blessed that you joined us today. Thank you so much.
Gracias, Renata. I received those words with a lot of love. Thank you for the space, which is very important. And thank you for inspiring me and us to create, because those IG lives that I've seen, those posts are reminders to me of like, yes, it doesn't have to look a certain way. Like create in any way that you can.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to everyone listening, and we will talk on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.